Hi everyone, it's Aga from EurekaCrystalBeads.com and I'm here with another fun beading tutorial for you. Before I get started, as always, make sure you're subscribed and don't forget about the notification bell, because in this way you'll be notified every time we add new content. So in today's video, we'll be making these earrings that I think will go perfectly with the necklace that I showed you how to make in previous video on our channel. They use mostly the same materials and they will go great together as a set. So here is what you'll need to make these earrings. First of all, Ginkgo beads, 8 in total for a pair of earrings. Also 8 of bicones, 4mm bicones. Then twice that is 16 4mm pearls. Now you could use bicones instead of the pearls, so you would need 16 plus 8. That is, I believe, 24 of the bicones then. And this is an earring where I use bicones instead of pearls. It also looks very nice. But I think with the pearls, this white one really gets some extra dimension. You're also going to need Magatama beads. These are TOHO Magatamas, 4mm, so the large ones. When it comes to seed beads, you're going to need 15-ohs, around 15-ohs. And this color that I have here, that is white lined crystal, I think. It's discontinued actually, so if you want to make the exact same ones, go and get it right away. But after that, we'll also, in the link down in the description, give you alternatives that you can use instead of this particular color. And then you're going to need Toho Treasures or Miyuki Delikas. And here I also have one stop bead that I'll be using. That's it when it comes to beads. You're also going to need a needle, and I do recommend size 12 because we're going to be making multiple passes through the 15-ohs. An 11 or a 10 might not do it, so a 12 will be perfect. And some fire line. Here I have 4LB in the color crystal, but you can use 6LB as well. And you can, of course, also use other threads, such as the nylon threads, Nymo or 1G. But for this one, we do really want a more stiff effect. This one, as you'll see, is not exactly like super stiff. You can still kind of bend it a little bit, but it's very easily put back together into its flat form. And this is what we want with it. So for the earrings, I do recommend Fireline. And 6LB, I think, will be even better than 4. Now, obviously, since it's an earring, you're going to need some ear wire or earring posts. Here I have this, it's just a regular French flat ear wire, and it has a loop on its side, like the loop goes from left to right or right to left and not front and back. But if you have a loop in your earring post or ear wire that you're using, if you have a loop that goes front to back, then you might need a loop, because our beaded loop in here is going to go side to side. So you might need a jump ring if the loop in your earring finding is like front to back. And scissors, of course, to trim off the excess thread. Alright, so that's the ingredients. Let's start. Alright, so let's start. For these earrings, you're not going to need more than half a wingspan of thread. Now I already put on my stopper bead. It's a 15-oh because that's going to be just easier to work with without like random large bead floating around. And these earrings are actually pretty easy. They're basically 3 rows. 2 rows are going like in a circle, and then we turn back and do the third one. So it's really, really easy if you have all the right ingredients and you know the sequence of beads that you're adding. Okay, so we're gonna start by adding 1 Ginkgo bead, and I'm gonna repeat, I always say that, but make sure that both of the holes are empty, because you don't want to go back because one of the holes is clogged. So you pick up 1 Ginkgo bead, and actually right away you pick up the second one and you add it on whichever hole, really. You just want to add and connect them. Connect these wider sides, so not the narrow ones, just the wider sides. You start on the narrow side, then you go through the wider side, and you end up coming out of the narrow side of the other Ginkgo. And now what you're gonna do is you're gonna pick up 2 15-ohs, a bicone, and 2 more 15-ohs. Just like this. And you actually make a circle. So you go back again through that same hole that you started with, in through the other ginkgo actually as well. So you connect these two ginkgo beads. You connect one of their holes, both on the inside and here on the outside. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to go through that first 15-0 in here next to the bicone as well. There are two, but I'm only going through one of them. And this is going to be kind of a shared bead where on one side it's connecting to the other ginkgo, and on the other side it's going to be connecting to the other hole of the same ginkgo bead. So I pick up 4 TOHO treasures now, and then one 15-0, because on this side we already have that one 15-0 that is shared, and we go down this second hole of this ginkgo bead. And in this way, you get the TOHO treasures hugging the narrow side of the ginkgo bead, sort of. And you're here, and at this point you pick up another ginkgo from the wider side, from the rounded side, just like this, whichever hole, because they're the same on both sides. And you'll see that now it's the time to connect them with a bicone, just like here. So I'm going to start with 2 15-0s, then a bicone, and then just one 15-0. And this is because in here we already have a 15-0 that's going to be shared between the bicone section and the TOHO treasure section. So when I pull it all together, this is what I end up with. I go again through the ginkgo and the first of the 15-0s that connects this hole of the ginkgo with the bicone section, and I'm coming out of this first 15-0 that's again going to be shared with the TOHO treasures. So I pick up 4 TOHO treasures and one 15-0, because we don't have any 15-0s on this side. We don't have any beads whatsoever in this hole. And now it's time to add the last ginkgo bead, again from the rounded wider side. And again, for the bicone connection, you're gonna add 2 15-0s, one bicone, and one 15-0, because in here you have that shared 15-0 that this section shares with the previous TOHO treasure section. Go through that first hole of the ginkgo bead that we just added again, and the first 15-0 on the other side of this hole, and 4 TOHO treasures plus one 15-0 now to the other hole, connecting the ginkgo holes. We're almost done with the first row. Now the bicone section. 2 15-0s bicone, one 15-0. Going through the shared 15-0 and the ginkgo bead. Back through the ginkgo in the first 15-0 in the bicone section. And now the only thing that's left is 4 TOHO treasures into that second hole of the very first ginkgo. Now I'm gonna step up through this next ginkgo here and through the first 15-0 on the other side. Now the 2 treasures on this narrow side of the ginkgo, and I'm ready to start a second row. We're going to be going the same way, sort of. So we're going to go like this. And the way that we're going to go about it is when I'm here at the top of the ginkgo, I'll pick 3 15-0s. I'm gonna slide them down, and I'm gonna go through the first one as if I was going to go through all of them again to make a circle, but I only go through the first one. You can hold it with your finger, because now what you want to do is you want to go through the remaining 2 treasures above that ginkgo bead. So when you pull it all together, this is sort of the shape that you get, this triangle, just like that. Now I'm going to pick up one 15-0, and I'll add it between this TOHO treasure and the 15-0 that goes into the bicone next to it. So this second 15-0 next to the bicone. Now, depending on the beads that you're using, for some colors, especially some colors of 15-0s, and also if you're maybe using the bicones from a different brand, I'm using Elite Eureka Crystal, of course, because they shine the best. But anyway, depending on the beads that you're using, you might or may not need to add this extra 15-0 here. So I did add one here, and in this earring I did add one also, and this is like the perfect ratio and everything. So I really do recommend using these colors or similar colors. But if you're using, for example, matte or some metallics, also they're wider. So there might not be a need to add another one because simply the bicone is going to have white beads on its sides. So you simply need to experiment. Most cases, this method will work, this pattern. So I'm just throwing it out there. Meanwhile, let's continue because I'm coming out of the bicone right now. And what I'll do now is I'll pick up one TOHO treasure, 2 Magatama beads in one TOHO treasure, and I'm going to go around that bicone and then that first 15 right after it as well, so that when I pull it together, we have 2 Magatama beads like that. Now I'll add the filler 15 sort of, before I go through the 2 treasures that are hugging this Ginkgo bead here. And again, I'll be picking up 3 15-0s, going around through the first one, down through the treasures, making sure that they make a triangle sort of, like this. Now time for another 15-0, going through the bicone and so on and so forth in this row. So I'll just continue for these 3. And I'll come back to you when it's time to get on with the next row. Alright, now that will be my last 15-0 here. So I'm just connecting the bicone section to this TOHO treasure section. And I went through that first top 15-0 as well in here. And now we're actually going to turn around. I'm not going to be turning around my work, but going to go this way now. So we're going to go this way because I'm gonna go through the next bead, the next 15-0 above that 15-0 that I just went through before, and I'm coming out of one of the 2 above it. I'm gonna add one 15-0 in between them so that I come out of the second one and my thread is going kind of down. This is where I'll be adding the pearls. So I pick up one 4mm pearl and then one 15-0. And this is another place, another spot here in this pattern where, depending on your seed beads and your 4mm, you might want to use 2 15-0s, one before the pearl, one after, or you might not want to use any. Probably it's going to work just fine if you use just the pearl and just one 15-0. But if your work is starting to get a little cupped, so everything is like this as you go through this last row, then you might want to use another 15-0 on the other side of the pearl. And if it's getting wavy, as if there's too much over there, then just don't add the 15-0 at all. But in any case, where do we go through with that sequence? We go through that Magatama bead directly, like this, so that you end up between the 2 Magatamas in the opposite direction to the direction that you've been beading in so far. Now I pick up one more Magatama bead, and I'm going through the other one on the other side so that we have a nice trio. Now a 15-0 and a pearl, and I'm passing through one of the 2 beads in this triangle here on top of the Ginkgo, and I'm passing through it from the bottom kind of towards the top like this, so that now I can add one 15-0 in between the pair in this triangle here, so that we have a pointy element in here as well. Now a pearl plus a 15-0 again. And this is all you do in that last row. Now I'm gonna add one more Magatama bead. Now 15-0 and a pearl, and so on and so forth. So I'll come back to you, and when it's basically time to finish. Okay, so this is going to be my last pearl in this row. Last bead in this row, technically. Now I'm gonna go through all of these beads in the last row, again, just to make this edge a little bit more stiff. And on my way, I'm going to attach the ear wire, for example, like here. So I just went along this final row along the edge, and I'm coming out of the central macadama in this 3. And what I'm gonna do, you can obviously just add 15-ohs, but we're gonna make it a little bit more fancy. I'm starting with 1 15-oh, then I'm going to add 5 Toho treasures, and then 1 more 15-oh. And I'm gonna make a circle around the macadama bead, just like this. It would be nice if both the 15-ohs kind of hid in the hole of the macadama bead. And I'm going to pick up my ear wire. It doesn't matter which side because both the front and the back of this look the same. So I just picked up my beads and my ear wire. And I'm gonna go around this macadama bead. I'm gonna go through all of these beads again. Now both of the 15-ohs are kind of hidden in the macadama hole. Now I'm gonna go through that first Toho treasure here because I was coming out of the 15-oh on this side. And in between the Toho treasures, I'm going to be adding single 15-ohs. And where you have the second one, make sure that you go through the ear wire as well. Right, that's the final one. So I'm just going through the Toho treasure, that 15-oh that's hidden there, and the Magatama bead. And there we have our loop. It's kind of cute, I think. What I'll do now is I'll just go through the Magatama, through the 15-oh that's hiding in its hole as well. Here I'll just make a knot and weave in the tail of my thread. And we're done! As I said, super easy but really, really pretty. Let us know in the comments what you think. All of the materials that you've seen here today can be found at eurekacrystalbeads.com, of course. And we'll also put a link down in the description where you will find all of these materials listed. Thanks so much for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye!